Way of the Wolf, Straight-Line Selling, Master the Art of Persuasion, Influence and Success, by Jordan Belfort. Picture a room crackling with electric tension, filled with hungry young dreamers that the world had already dismissed as nobodies. No fancy degrees hanging on their walls, no trust funds cushioning their falls. Jordan Belfort himself called them a decidedly average lot at best, kids who'd spent their whole lives hearing that greatness belonged to someone else. Yet somehow, within just a few months, these same underdogs were morphing into sales machines, pulling in more cash in 30 days than their folks made in 12 months. They were closing deals with America's wealthiest, most sharp-eyed investors, people who should have spotted them coming from a mile away and slammed the door in their faces. So what was their secret? No magic wands involved. Just a system. A system so brutally effective and surprisingly simple that it could transform anyone, no matter where they came from, into a persuasion powerhouse. This system was forged in the wild, testosterone-fueled chaos of 1980s Wall Street, inside a brokerage firm destined to become infamous, Stratton Oakmont. The mastermind behind it? Jordan Belfort himself, the man the world would come to know as the Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, we've all seen the movie. The champagne-soaked parties, the mind-blowing success, the spectacular fall from grace. It's a roller coaster of incredible highs and crushing lows, but beneath all that mayhem lies something far more valuable to your actual life. It's the story of a discovery, a cracking of the code that governs every single human interaction where someone tries to convince someone else of something. Here's the thing. This isn't just a manual for peddling stocks. If that's what you're thinking, you're missing the whole point. This is a book about influence in all its forms. It's about communicating your ideas, your passions, your vision, in a way that actually gets people to move. Whether you're a parent trying to convince your teenager to put down their phone, an entrepreneur pitching your dream to skeptical investors, or just someone who wants to stop feeling powerless in conversations, the underlying principles are identical. Jordan Belfort's story is absolutely a cautionary tale, but it's also a redemption arc. After losing absolutely everything, he rebuilt himself by refining his system, ruthlessly cutting away the shady tactics, and zeroing in on what actually worked. He came to realize that the system he'd created wasn't just a money-printing machine. It was a force for good that could empower anyone to reach for their dreams. And that's exactly what I'm offering you today. By the time we're done here, you'll understand the elegant, surprisingly straightforward system that Jordan Belfort calls the straight line. You'll see that persuasion isn't some mystical talent reserved for the naturally charismatic. It's a science with rules and principles that anyone can master. And once you've got them in your toolkit, you'll be holding the key to unlocking levels of success you might have thought were forever out of reach. It all kicked off with one frustrated outburst in a boardroom full of defeated salesmen. The year was 1988, and Jordan Belfort's firm, Stratton Oakmont, was teetering on the edge, either about to explode into massive success or collapse into total failure. He just made a bold pivot, shifting from selling penny stocks to everyday folks to hawking higher-priced stocks to America's wealthiest 1%. The potential payoff was astronomical, but there was one massive, glaring problem. His team of young, green-as-grass brokers couldn't close a single deal. They were getting absolutely demolished by objections, intimidated by wealthy prospects who could smell their inexperience and were on the verge of mutiny. In a desperate last stand, Belfort called an emergency meeting. His brokers were in full complaint mode. There are thousands of objections. It's impossible. Frustrated beyond belief, Belfort marched to a whiteboard and said, "All right, fine. Name them. Every single one." They started shouting them out. "I need to think about it. I need to talk to my wife. It's a bad time of year. I don't trust you. When the room finally went quiet, Belfort looked at the board. There weren't thousands of objections staring back at him, maybe 14, and most were just slight variations of each other. And in that exact moment, something clicked. A window of crystal clarity swung open in his mind. He realized all these objections were just smoke and mirrors, elaborate disguises for one single thing: uncertainty. And then came the breakthrough that changed everything. He turned to his stunned brokers and said, "Don't you guys get it? Every sale is exactly the same." That single sentence is the beating heart of the entire straight-line system. What Belfort realized was that no matter what you're selling, whether it's a stock, a car, an idea, or even yourself on a nerve-wracking first date, for a sale to actually happen, three core elements must align perfectly in your prospect's mind. He called them the 3 10s. Imagine a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is complete uncertainty and 10 is rock-solid certainty. To close any deal, you've got to push your prospect as close to a 10 as humanly possible on 3 specific things. The first 10 is the product, idea, or concept itself. Your prospect needs to be absolutely certain they love what you're offering. They have to believe it's the greatest thing since someone figured out how to slice bread, that it perfectly fills their needs and solves a genuine pain they're experiencing. If they're at a 1, they think your product is worthless garbage. If they're at a 10, they're convinced it'll transform their life for the better. But let's say you somehow get them to a 10 on the product. They absolutely adore it. Will they buy? Not necessarily, because what if they don't trust you? This brings us to the second of the 3 10s, you, the salesperson. Your prospect must trust and genuinely connect with you. They need to see you as a trustworthy expert who actually cares about their well-being, not just their wallet. If they think you're a snake in the grass only hunting for a commission, it doesn't matter if your product is heaven sent. They absolutely will not buy from you. They'll walk away and find someone they do trust and buy it from them instead. Okay, so now your prospect is at a 10 on the product and a 10 on you. They love what you're offering, and they trust you completely. Now will they buy? Still, maybe not. There's one final puzzle piece. What if they don't trust the company you represent? This is the third 10. The prospect must trust and connect with your company. If they think your company has a sketchy reputation or won't honor their promises, the entire deal collapses. These are the 3 10s: the product, you, and the company. Every single objection you'll ever hear is simply camouflage for uncertainty in one or more of these 3 areas. The prospect who says, "Let me think about it," isn't actually planning to go home and ponder your offer over chamomile tea. What they're really saying is, "I'm not certain enough about your product, or you, or your company to commit right now." The entire job of a salesperson, therefore, is systematically increasing the prospect's certainty in these 3 areas until they feel comfortable enough to take the leap. This is where the image of the straight line becomes crucial. On that whiteboard, that pivotal night, Belfort drew a simple horizontal line. On the left end sat the open, the start of the sale. On the right end sat the close, where the deal gets sealed. Everything you say and do, he explained, is designed to keep your prospect on this straight line, moving them elegantly and efficiently from open to close. In a perfect world, a sale would be exactly that. A straight shot. The prospect would nod along with everything you say and hand over their money immediately. But we don't live in that fantasy world. In reality, prospects are constantly trying to yank you off the line. They want to ramble about the weather, politics, last night's game, or some completely random tangent. Belfort drew 2 boundaries, one above and one below the line. Stay inside these boundaries, and you're still in control, building rapport, gathering intelligence. But drift outside those boundaries, you've lost control. You're off wandering in Pluto, or drowning down in Uranus, as he colorfully described it, and you're definitely not moving toward the close. The salesperson's job is wielding every tool in their arsenal to gently guide the prospect back to the straight line and keep momentum building toward the close. The million-dollar question is, how do you seize that control in the first place? It happens in the first 4 seconds. Belfort explains that from the moment a prospect hears your voice or lays eyes on you in person, their brain is making a series of lightning-fast judgments. This isn't some character flaw. It's a survival mechanism hardwired into our DNA from our caveman days. In that minuscule window of time, you must establish 3 crucial things in your prospect's mind. Fail at this, and the sale is probably dead before it even starts breathing. The 3 things you absolutely must establish are: first, you are sharp as a tack. This means you sound intelligent, switched on, and like someone who won't waste a single second of their precious time. Second, you are enthusiastic as hell. This broadcasts a powerful unconscious message that you've got something genuinely exciting to offer. It's not about being obnoxiously loud. It's a bottled enthusiasm that bubbles just beneath the surface, ready to spill over. Third, you are an expert in your field. People are conditioned from childhood to listen to and respect authority figures. By positioning yourself as an expert, the prospect will naturally defer to you and allow you to lead the conversation. If you can nail these 3 elements in the first 4 seconds, the prospect concludes you're someone worth listening to. They'll hand over the conversational reins, allowing you to guide them down the straight line. But how do you possibly communicate all of that in just 4 seconds? It's certainly not through your actual words. You can't just announce, "Hi, I'm sharp, enthusiastic, and an expert." You'd sound completely unhinged. The answer lies in the 90% of communication that has absolutely nothing to do with the words leaving your mouth. It lies in tonality and body language. Your tone of voice is the secret weapon of influence. Think about how your mother could say your name. Jordan, in a stern tone, meant you were in deep trouble. Jordan, in a sing-song tone, meant everything was perfectly fine. Same word, completely different universe of meaning. The straight-line system identifies 10 core influencing tonalities that we all use unconsciously every day. But a master persuader learns to deploy them consciously and strategically. For example, there's the "I care" tonality, an upbeat, warm tone that shows genuine interest when you ask, "How are you today?" This builds instant rapport. There's the tonality of mystery and intrigue, a slight whisper you use when saying, "The reason for the call today is," which makes the prospect lean in closer, suddenly paying attention. There's the tonality of absolute certainty, a firm, powerful tone that resonates from deep in your gut when you're making a critical point. And there's the reasonable man tone, where you raise your voice slightly at the end of a request, like, "Sound fair enough?" which makes the whole thing seem completely non-threatening and easy to agree to. By consciously modulating your tonality, you're speaking directly to your prospect's unconscious mind. You're creating feelings of trust, urgency, and certainty on a deeply emotional level, while your actual words are working on the logical level. This is absolutely crucial, because as Belfort emphasizes, people don't buy on logic, they buy on emotion, and then justify their decision with logic afterward. You need to create both logical certainty and emotional certainty simultaneously. Your words construct the logical case. Your tonality builds the emotional case. But even with perfect tonality, you'll crash and burn if you're not in the right mental state yourself. This brings us to another critical pillar of the system, State management. You can memorize the world's best script and master every tonality, but if you walk into a sales conversation feeling uncertain, scared, or radiating negative energy, you will fail spectacularly. Why? Because a disempowered emotional state blocks you from accessing your skills and resources. Think of it like a valve controlling water flow. When you're in an empowered state, the valve is wide open, and all your talents can flow freely. When you're in a disempowered state, the valve is slammed shut, and you can't access your best self no matter how hard you try. The goal isn't living in a peak state 24/7. That would be exhausting and would probably make you unbearable to be around. The goal is being able to trigger a peak state at will, right when you need it most. For sales and influence, Belfort identifies 4 crucial states, which he calls the 4 C's: certainty, clarity, confidence, and courage. So now you're in a peak state. You've established yourself as a sharp, enthusiastic expert in the first 4 seconds. You're using tonality strategically to guide your prospect's emotions. You're firmly in control of the straight line. The next critical step is prospecting. This is where the legendary "sell me this pen" challenge comes into play. Most salespeople, when handed a pen, immediately launch into listing features. This pen writes upside down. It has incredibly smooth ink. This approach is completely wrong. As Belfort explains, you cannot sell something to someone until you know what they actually need. The first step isn't to pitch, it's to ask intelligent questions. It's to gather intelligence. A great salesperson is a sifter, not an alchemist. You cannot magically turn lead into gold, and you cannot transform someone with zero interest or need for your product into a buyer. Your job is sifting through prospects to identify the ones who are genuinely potential buyers and disqualify the rest as quickly as possible. There are 4 types of buyers who will enter your sales funnel. First, buyers in heat. These are your absolute best prospects. They're ready to buy right now. They have a painful problem they need solved, and they've already decided to take action. These are golden. Second, buyers in power. These prospects are also interested, but they're not in any rush. They're in the information gathering phase, doing their research. These are the people you can persuade to buy now instead of later. Third, looky-loos or tire kickers. These are the most dangerous category. They pretend to be interested, but have absolutely zero intention of buying. They'll waste your time, drain your energy, and destroy your confidence. You must identify and remove them quickly. Fourth, the mistakes. These are people who ended up in your funnel by complete accident. They clicked the wrong link, got dragged along by a friend, or somehow wandered in confused. They have no interest whatsoever, and you have zero chance of closing them. Your prospecting script is specifically designed to separate these groups. You ask a strategic series of questions, moving from broad to specific. You start with less invasive questions to build initial rapport, and then, once trust is established, you move to more direct questions about their needs, their pain points, and yes, their finances. Throughout this entire process, you're actively listening, using your body language and audible cues like aha and yup to show you're fully engaged. This builds massive rapport. Once you've identified a qualified prospect, a buyer in heat, or a buyer in power, you smoothly transition to your main presentation. This is where you deploy your script. Many people resist scripts, fearing they'll sound like awkward robots. Belfort argues this fear is complete nonsense. Every great movie you've ever watched that made you feel powerful emotions was entirely scripted. The problem isn't the script itself, it's a poorly written script or terrible delivery. A straight-line script is meticulously crafted. It's not front-loaded with all the benefits dumped at once. Instead, it strategically saves key information for later to handle objections. It's written to flow like natural conversation, with perfect rhythm and balance. It uses powerful, emotionally charged language. And most importantly, it gives you the mental freedom to stop worrying about what to say next, so you can focus all your attention on reading how your prospect is reacting. Your main presentation builds both the logical and emotional case for the first of the three tens, the product itself. You deliver your carefully scripted patterns, building momentum, and then you ask for the order for the first time. And this, Belfort emphasizes, is where the real sale actually begins, because most of the time, the prospect won't say yes, they also won't say no, they'll say maybe. They'll throw out an objection. Let me think about it. I need to talk to my wife. A novice salesperson hears an objection and immediately tries to argue against it, getting defensive. A straight-line salesperson knows the objection is just smoke and mirrors for underlying uncertainty, so they don't answer it directly. They deflect it and loop back. This is the art and science of looping. Let's say the prospect responds with, "It sounds good, let me think about it." You reply with a calm, reasonable tone, "I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea?" Notice what just happened there. You didn't argue or get defensive. You smoothly sidestepped the objection and went straight back to the straight line to gauge their certainty on the first 10, the product. Based on the enthusiasm in their yes or lack thereof, you can estimate where they are on the 1 to 10 scale. If they're hovering below an 8, you know you need to build more certainty, so you run your first loop. You deliver another language pattern, highlighting new benefits about the product, constructing a stronger logical and emotional case. Then you seamlessly transition back to the close and ask for the order again. Now let's say after your first loop, they're genuinely at a 10 on the product. They absolutely love it. But they're still objecting. Maybe this time they say, "I need to call you back." This is just objection hopping. They're still uncertain, but now it's not about the product anymore. It's about the second or third 10, either you or the company. So you run another loop. This time, you might say something like, "I understand completely. But let me ask you something. If you'd been working with me for the last few years and I'd been consistently making you money, you probably wouldn't be saying, 'Let me call you back.' You'd be saying, 'Pick me up a block.' Am I right?" With this pattern, you've reframed the entire conversation around trust. You've exposed the real source of their hesitation. Now you can run a loop specifically to build certainty in the second 10, you. You reintroduce yourself, emphasize your expertise, your integrity, and your genuine commitment to your clients. Then you transition to the third 10, the company, and build certainty there with stories and proof. After that loop, you ask for the order a third time. For many prospects, 3 loops is enough, but some people are just naturally tough buyers. They have what Belfort calls a high action threshold. The action threshold is the invisible line of certainty a person must cross before they feel comfortable pulling the trigger. Easy buyers have a low threshold. They're naturally comfortable taking action. Tough buyers have a sky-high threshold. They're plagued by negative past experiences and constantly run disaster movies in their head about everything that could go wrong. For these people, you need to lower their action threshold. You can do this by offering a money-back guarantee, a rescission period, or by using specific reassuring phrases like, "I'll hold your hand every step of the way." This minimizes their perceived risk. Finally, for the absolute toughest nuts to crack, you have one last powerful tool in your arsenal, the pain threshold. Pain is the ultimate motivator in human psychology. During your earlier intelligence gathering, You carefully identified their pain. Now, you bring it to the surface. You gently remind them of the pain their unresolved problem is causing them, and you future pace them, painting a vivid picture of a world where that pain is completely gone because they used your product. You help them visualize how much better, easier, and more fulfilling their life will be. This creates a powerful sense of urgency that's almost irresistible. With each carefully crafted loop, you're systematically increasing your prospect's certainty, lowering their action threshold, and amplifying their awareness of their pain, moving them step by step down the straight line until they are so certain, so confident, that buying becomes the most logical and emotionally satisfying decision they can possibly make. You close the deal, not through manipulation or high-pressure tactics, but through elegant, ethical persuasion that serves everyone involved. When you strip away all the layers of Jordan Belfort's story, the fame, the infamy, the Hollywood spectacle, you discover a profound and surprisingly simple truth sitting at its core. Influence is not an accident. It's a skill. And like any skill worth having, it can be learned, practiced, and eventually mastered. The straight-line system is, in its essence, a detailed blueprint for mastering that exact skill. What makes Way of the Wolf so genuinely powerful is that it completely demystifies the art of persuasion. It takes something that feels abstract, intimidating, and reserved for natural-born salespeople, and breaks it down into a logical, step-by-step process anyone can follow. The idea that every sale fundamentally boils down to managing certainty across just three key areas: the product, the salesperson, and the company, is an absolute game-changer. It provides a crystal-clear roadmap for navigating any persuasive conversation. When a prospect throws out an objection, you're no longer lost, scrambling, or getting defensive. You have a framework. You know the objection is simply a signal showing you exactly where their certainty is lacking, and you have a specific tool, looping, to systematically address it. But the most important lesson in this book isn't actually about any specific sales tactic. It's about empowerment. Belfort makes a genuinely compelling case that selling is everything in life. We're always selling something. We sell our ideas to our boss, hoping for approval. We sell our vision to our team, building buy-in. We sell our children on the value of education and responsibility. We sell ourselves to potential romantic partners, hoping they'll see our value. Life is essentially a constant series of interactions where we're trying to convey our thoughts, dreams, and desires in a way that moves people to take action. When we lack this fundamental skill, we live a deeply disempowered life, constantly at the mercy of circumstance and other people's decisions. But when we master it, we gain the genuine ability to shape our own destiny. Of course, this kind of power comes with a heavy weight of responsibility, a lesson Belfort himself learned in the most painful, public way imaginable. He warns us repeatedly throughout the book, with great power comes great responsibility. The system can absolutely be used for good or for ill. True success, the kind that lasts and brings genuine fulfillment, rather than hollow victories, can only be built on a solid foundation of ethics and integrity. Using these tools to manipulate someone into acting against their own best interest isn't a victory at all. It's a profound failure of character that will eventually catch up with you. So how can you start applying these lessons today, right now? Here are a few simple, actionable steps. First, master your first 4 seconds. For the next week, in every single conversation you have, whether it's with a teacher, a friend, a family member, or a stranger, be hyper-conscious of those first 4 seconds. Stand up straight, make solid eye contact, speak with a clear, upbeat, and confident tonality. Don't just shuffle into a room, make an entrance. Notice how people respond differently to you when you do this. Second, become an active listener. The next time someone is talking to you, put put your phone away completely and truly listen. Don't just wait impatiently for your turn to speak. Nod your head. Use audible cues like aha and I see to show engagement. Try to understand not just what they're saying on the surface, but what they're actually feeling underneath. Remember, rapport isn't about being interesting. It's about being genuinely interested. Third, learn to deflect, not argue. The next time you face an objection to one of your ideas, whether it's at work, at home, or anywhere else, resist the powerful urge to immediately defend yourself. Instead, try the straight-line deflection. Say something like, I hear what you're saying, but just so I understand, does the basic idea make sense to you? This simple shift changes the entire dynamic from a defensive conflict to a collaborative problem-solving conversation. That was a comprehensive summary of Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. We've walked the straight line together today, from those crucial first 4 seconds all the way to the final close. But as with any great journey, a map can only show you the path. It can't actually take the steps for you. The real transformation happens when you immerse yourself in the full story, absorbing the details, the nuances, the energy. This summary is your starting point, a guide to help you decide if this journey is one you want to commit to taking. If the idea of mastering the art of ethical influence has sparked something in you, if it's lit a fire you can feel burning, then I genuinely encourage you to pick up a copy of the book. The detailed scripts, the subtle nuances of tonality, and the sheer contagious energy of Belfort's writing offer an experience that can genuinely rewire the way you communicate and, in doing so, fundamentally change the trajectory of your life. The link to the book is waiting in the description below. And if you found this exploration valuable, if it opened your eyes to new possibilities, please take a moment to click that subscribe button and join our growing community. We have many more fascinating journeys ahead, diving into the minds of the world's most successful people, and I'd be genuinely honored to have you with us as we continue learning, growing, and transforming together.